Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk, presented by Bear Mail, the show where we talk with sports marketing leaders who share their email marketing and SMS wins one play at a time, all with the goal to help you, the listeners, grow fan engagement and ticket sales. I'm your host, Chris Behrens. I'm the founder and CEO of Bear Mail, where we help professional sports teams sell and engage more fans through personalized email and SMS marketing solutions. After spending the last decade of my career helping sports teams win off the field with email and SMS, I wanted to give back to the sports community by connecting with marketing leaders in the sports industry and having them share their email marketing and SMS wins with you. What's working, what isn't, and what's really moving the needle for their programs. Today, I have the distinct privilege of speaking with Will Boyd, who is a senior marketing automation specialist with the Memphis Grizzlies. Will's got a decade of experience in email marketing, working at companies like SendGrid and Emma. Will joined the Grizzlies about a year ago, and I'm really excited to chat with him today. Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Love being here.
Awesome. Well, first, let's tip things off. Before you arrived at the Grizzlies, you have a really interesting background in email that's a little bit unconventional to the sports world. So tell the listeners about you, your background, your story with email, and how you ended up at the Grizzlies.
Absolutely. So this is my first sports role. And as I got here, I started to learn that that's kind of rare, as you're kind of pointing out. A lot of folks get into sports early and that's where they're at. But I'm coming from really that marketing tech world. We're starting out at Emma a long time ago, about a decade ago. I really got into email through compliance and helping senders make sure they're not spamming their own recipients. So I started out my journey there and then moved on to SendGrid, which is one of the largest sending platforms in the world. And there I got to be I agreed to be a senior deliverability consultant handling some of our largest senders. And I handled senders across the range of industries, everyone from giant music streaming platforms to marketing automation platforms to even small to medium-sized clients sending. So I got to see a lot of email being sent. And from there, my next stop was at a CDP, which gave me some more unique experience, I think, because I got to work specifically with senders using deep insights into their own data, getting out of the email opens and clicks and looking at all data points, like maybe if in the terms of like sports world, like how many games fans are returning to, how quickly they come back, things like that. Being able to work with brands with their real deep data to do real good email was really exciting. And then got the opportunity last year to come over to the Grizzlies, my hometown team. I live down the street and big fan, and I got to come over to help them do marketing automation, specifically around email and SMS as well. But really helping the Grizzlies do both email deliverability work, but also just marketing automation, making sure we're getting the right message in front of the right fans at the right time.
That's fantastic. What a cool background. Thanks for sharing, Will. And I think one thing that stood out to me that's a little bit atypical for most email marketers that I talk to is that you started off in your journey thinking about deliverability and getting in the inbox, which is something that I think most marketers that I talk to take for granted for how you get in the inbox. And that's such a critical part of the experience when you think about reaching fans. Is if you don't get in the inbox, the message and everything else that you're building behind it doesn't matter at all. So I love that you have that background.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really unique to come into an experience like the Grizzlies, where it was assumed that we had great deliverability. It was assumed that all our messages were really getting to the inbox, and then we found out through some of the work that really wasn't the case. And we did some really good work to really improve the percentage of mail that's getting in front of actual human beings this year. So it's been a nice transition to be able to bring that and put it hands on keyboard and actually show folks that these things work.
That's fantastic. I love that. So you've had a really, really great experience in email marketing. When you came into the Grizzlies and started to provide support on the marketing automation side, when you came in, what was your perspective when it came to what really great email marketing looked like from your end?
No matter the industry, what I have seen is when brands or teams, anyone that's sending email, really uses it for its strengths, which is relationship building over time. It doesn't mean that you can't have a single conversion call to action in an email, but But when you're emailing people over and over, it really is about moving them through their relationship. And when brands, any sender really looks to email to do that and strategizes around that first, they almost always have a lot more success with those single call to action sends, those single sale sends, things like that. So it really is that focus on the relationship that I see, as opposed to just, I have offers, I need to get offers in front of people.
I love that. I'm so glad that you led with relationship management, because ultimately we're dealing with people and we're trying to develop a long-term relationship with them. And we're not just trying to sell all the time. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes a brand can make, is just thinking that because a consumer signed up for their messaging, it means that they always want to hear about sales messaging and always want offers shoved down their throat. So
Yeah.
I love that perspective that you lead with the relationship.
And you rarely, as in the sports world, you rarely have someone sign up, and at the point they sign up, they are a rabid fan for life.
100%.
We get their email address. That's fantastic. That's step one. That's not a finished job. We have to move them towards that fan loyalty that's going to keep them around through rough seasons, hard patches, even in the good times as well.
I love that. That's great. And it really leads well and kind of into my next question when we think about the sports marketing world, is thinking about how do you develop campaigns that really resonate with fans regardless of what's happening on the field, because sometimes the team is great and sometimes the team isn't, right? And so when you think about, your time in sports so far, you've been in with the Grizzlies for almost a year. And when I talk to sports marketers, they're always looking for, one really game-changing tactic when it comes to email to go drive bigger revenue, bigger ticket sales, huge growth in fan engagement. What's been, from your perspective, a game-changing tactic that you've implemented or explored that helps transform what the Grizzlies are doing on the email side?
Probably the most important thing we've done this year is introduced an automated sunset and re-engagement strategy, not just a go in our database, find people who haven't opened in X amount of time, and then either sunset them, no longer send to them, or blast out a big re-engagement campaign. What we do is we use our Salesforce Marketing Cloud automation tools to have a continuously operating program that notices when you as an individual have gone X number of messages without engaging at all. And then we start to message you differently. We start to message you in different cadences. We slow down. We start to give you different types of messaging. And we don't just cut you off right off the bat. And then over time, what we've seen is about a 10% re-engagement rate for people who just weren't opening our messages at all. As well, we've seen a massive increase in our email engagement stats, telling us that we're now getting more email to the inbox. One of the biggest ones is comparing over a 5-month period after we introduced this strategy, we sent 500,000 fewer messages and got over 150,000 more actual unique opens. So that was a game changer itself, in that, number one, as a deliverability person in the sports team, it bought me a lot of credibility when I can show these numbers to my leadership. Because in the sports world, a lot of times leadership has not spent a lot of time thinking about email marketing. Right. And the nuances of that. And it can be hard to do, convince someone to send fewer messages to get more people involved. But we were successful by being able to measure that, but also set it up in an automated cadence so that we didn't have to do things so onesie-twosie here and there once or twice a year.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great case study. I love that. Thanks for sharing, Will. It's a really hard conversation anytime you want to go to leadership and say, we need to send fewer emails to drive a bigger impact. It feels like a counterintuitive statement when you start to talk in those terms, but when you can show the results and show a 10% lift in unique opens, that's really measurable impact. That shows that you're doing a great job there. So
yeah, and they also don't mind the spend on email going down a little bit either.
Of course, yeah, you definitely save on the contract costs for your marketing cloud platform. So that's always a really nice benefit, of course, too. So I love that. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. So I think the other thing, too, that I always get asked about when it comes to working with teams is figuring out what data or what type of campaigns are teams really sleeping on. I see a lot of teams simply explore ticket sales campaigns to drive single game tickets or group tickets or packages or season tickets. What do you feel like is the thing that teams are sleeping on when it comes to email?
That's a really good point. And the Grizzlies, are lucky here. Even as a smaller market team, we have a very good data team, helping me in lots of ways. I know a little bit of SQL, but that's not my thing, of course. But we're able to unearth lots of really cool data points to help us with our strategy. Along with those things, we absolutely do those past purchase history, who's bought what type of tickets in the past, things like that. But we're now also looking at fan behavior on the negative side, or not really the negative side, but before they purchased or when they're not purchasing, is like in terms of how fast can we get someone to return from their first to their second game? And then how fast can we get them to return to their fifth game? And then how can we move them in what I refer to them as micro conversions? We have steps in a relationship we're actually looking to promote instead of just going, wow, we have inventory in our terrace level that we need to sell today. Who can buy those for this specific game? We
Yeah.
still do that. That's important, but we have to have a parallel process that continually looks to why are we messaging this type of recipient, this type of fan that's in this kind of relationship with us? They've only signed up. They do live in our marketing area. So we know they were within the area, but we know they've never come to a game. How can we really be specific to them? Because that's not the same message I'm going to send to Chris, who's been to 10 games this season. I don't have to nurture him in the same way. So
Yeah.
it's really, we've really been able to, along with the sunsetting, which has helped this tremendously, we've then been able to go, okay, we're getting mail to the inbox. We can now make meaningful movement in our actual messaging strategy and measure that effectively. So that's those types of fan behaviors, whether it is game attendance and how fast they're returning, or things like just driving activity towards sign up forms, or not sign up forms, but even polls and quizzes and things. If you use them correctly, you can actually tell if this is human being interaction and it's deepening their relationship with your brand. So it's really trying to think outside the box and say, how can we get the human being to do something that we can measure outside of the email?
I
Because
love
that's the most accurate measurement you'll ever have. I always tell people I can't pay my mortgage with opens and clicks.
it.
My bank doesn't take it.
Unfortunately not, but perhaps one day one crazy mortgage lender might provide that service. But you made some really great points in there. In particular, I love the fact that you talk about all fans are really different. So when we comes to thinking about how we message fans in particular, when it comes to ticket messaging in particular, we think about the messaging should feel differently for someone who's been to one game versus 10 games, right? Because they don't need the nurturing experience. They don't need the reminders of what the experience is like necessarily if you've been to 10 games versus one game. And driving individual fans from that first purchase to that second purchase is arguably one of the most important things that teams can really focus on, because getting someone to one game is one thing. Getting someone to come back and back and back again and continually spend money out of their wallet with the team is something that every team would dream of, right? Because everyone's thinking about selling mini packs and selling season tickets and selling these larger ticketing products down the road. So thinking about how you transition what the messaging looks like for different buyer types is really a great approach. I love that.
Yeah, when I think about it, a lot of times we are pushing that inventory, but what we're really wanting to sell is that recipient and that fans desire to be a part of the organization. And any way we can continually show them and connect them to invite them to be a part of the organization, the better of a fan they're going to be through those rough times. The easier it is, because you can't just rely on, hey, we're on a winning streak, come be excited with us, because those end. And we need fans that just really do love the organization and want to be a part of it through thick and thin.
100%. I love that. And sports is so uniquely positioned to lean on that particular type of emotion and feeling within fans, is to think about if a fan really has a connection with the team and they feel like they're going to follow the team through thick and thin, they're going to come back to the experience. They're going to pull out their wallet and spend dollars with the team. And if your messaging isn't only predicated on win, 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 come back with us now, then you're putting yourself in a great position to succeed. So I love
Yeah.
it. Very cool. So I think to wrap things up, I just have one final question for you. So if you're thinking about talking with another email marketer, SMS marketer within the sports industry, what's the number one piece of advice that you would have to help them think about growing fan engagement or ticket sales or, other business metrics within email or SMS?
The most successful thing I've done here is start small and measure it. Because one of the biggest challenges I see, not only I experience it a little bit, but I've seen it across my other colleagues as I've gotten to know the sports world, is it's somewhat difficult to get leadership buy-in at the top. And in a sports team, often it is absolutely critical to get that pinnacle okay on doing things. So it's starting small, doing some small A/B testing where you can actually say, this is not my feeling. This is not, I think this will work. This is, I can show you, like I talked about the opens earlier. I was able to go to my bosses this year and say, we compared the in-season mail from 23-24 to in-season mail this season, and we had a 6% decrease in the number of unique email addresses we sent to, and we had an 8% increase in the number of unique email addresses that actually engaged with our content. I was like, so we've got more people and less mail. How can we think? And then the next step is, how can we think about building on this and really getting that buy-in at the top a little bit at a time? You might not see as much success if you just try to revolutionize an email program overnight, especially one that's been running over many seasons and with a lot of folks involved with it. So getting that buy-in at the top really helps set the tone for a more organizational change, to say we are going to now do email this way across our ticketing sales, across our community team, across partnerships. We're going to look at these things slightly differently in order to make sure that we are treating our fans in that fan relationship first, instead of our needs to sell inventory first.
That's a great approach and a great piece of advice. I love the fact that you're thinking about developing proof points with your leadership to say, here's why we're going to recommend going with this approach, because we did a small scale test and we discovered X, Y, and Z about our program. So this is the right direction to move. So getting those proof points is everything.
And the more you do that, suddenly you'll find it seems slow at first, but 6-7 months in, you continue to do A/B testing and continue to show results. You start to get a lot of buy-in quickly.
Definitely. I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, Will. This is fantastic to have you on the show. I really appreciate all the insights you shared with our listeners. Listeners, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next Chalk Talk presented by Bear Mail. Thanks so much for joining us.